30 days. No sugar. I genuinely thought I would last maybe 4 or 5 days before completely caving. But I made it the full month, and what happened to my body and my mind during those 30 days completely changed the way I think about food forever. Stick around, because some of these results are going to shock you. So let me set the scene. Before this challenge, I was not someone who considered themselves a sugar addict. I didn't sit around eating candy bars or pouring syrup on everything. I ate what most people would call a pretty normal diet. Cereal in the morning, a sandwich for lunch, some snacks throughout the day, maybe a dessert at night. Totally normal, right? That is exactly what I thought, until I actually started reading ingredient labels. And that is when everything fell apart. Sugar is hiding in places that should be completely illegal. Pasta sauce, salad dressing, bread, granola that markets itself as a health food, flavored yogurt, even some kinds of deli meat. The first 3 days of this challenge were not spent fighting cravings. They were spent standing in supermarket aisles with my jaw on the floor, putting back item after item because sugar was listed somewhere in the first 5 ingredients. I had to rebuild my entire grocery routine from scratch. Now here is something I want to be clear about before we go any further. I was cutting out added sugars specifically. I was not eliminating fruit or naturally occurring sugars found in whole foods. The goal was to stop consuming the refined, processed, intentionally added sugar that manufacturers dump into packaged foods to make them more addictive and palatable. That distinction matters a lot, and I'll come back to why. Days 1 through 5 were honestly brutal. I had a headache that sat behind my eyes for almost 3 straight days. I was irritable in a way that my friends and family definitely noticed. My energy crashed hard in the afternoons, which was ironic because I thought removing sugar would give me more energy. What was actually happening is that my body had become so dependent on those quick blood sugar spikes that without them, it had no idea how to regulate its own energy levels. I was essentially going through a mild form of withdrawal. By day 7, something started to shift. The headaches faded. The afternoon crashes started becoming less severe. I noticed I was actually hungry at consistent times rather than just randomly craving something every hour. For the first time in probably years, I understood the difference between actual hunger and a sugar craving masquerading as hunger. These are 2 completely different sensations, and I had been confusing them my whole adult life. Here is a value drop that I think will change your relationship with food immediately. Cravings for sugar typically peak around 20 minutes and then naturally decrease if you don't feed them. Most people give in during that 20-minute window because it feels like the craving is only getting stronger. It is not. You are just in the middle of the peak. Water, a handful of nuts, or even just getting up and moving for a few minutes is often enough to get you through to the other side. Week 2 is when the results started becoming undeniable. My skin. I don't want to overstate this, but my skin looked noticeably clearer. The kind of subtle inflammation and puffiness that I had assumed was just my face apparently was not just my face. Research suggests that high sugar intake can trigger inflammatory responses throughout the body, and skin is one of the places that shows that inflammation visibly. By day 14, people were asking me what skincare products I had changed. I had changed nothing except what I was eating. My sleep quality improved dramatically. I was falling asleep faster, waking up fewer times throughout the night, and feeling genuinely rested in the morning, rather than just less tired. Again, the connection here is blood sugar stability. When your blood sugar is spiking and crashing throughout the day, and especially in the evening after dessert, your body has a harder time maintaining the steady hormonal environment that supports deep, restorative sleep. Week 3 brought a change I absolutely did not expect. Things started tasting different. Not in a bad way, in a profoundly better way. I ate a plain strawberry during week 3 and it tasted so sweet and intense that it was almost overwhelming. My taste buds had recalibrated. When you are constantly flooding your palate with high concentrations of refined sugar, your sensitivity to natural sweetness essentially gets blunted. It is like trying to hear a quiet conversation in a room where someone is blasting music. Remove the music, and suddenly you can hear everything. This recalibration changed my relationship with food in a way that no diet or willpower strategy ever had before. I was not white-knuckling my way through meals anymore. I genuinely preferred the way things tasted without added sugar. My mental clarity also improved in a way that felt almost unfair. The mid-morning fog that I had always attributed to not drinking enough coffee turned out to be directly connected to my breakfast choices. Once I swapped out cereal and toast for eggs and vegetables, my focus in the mornings became sharp, in a way that I can only describe as my baseline shifting upward permanently. Week 4 was about consolidation and making choices. By this point, the challenge had become less about restriction and more about genuine preference. I went to a birthday party in week 4 and there was cake and I had a small slice. Not because I failed, but because I made a conscious, eyes-open decision to enjoy a moment with people I care about. That is a completely different psychological relationship with food than what I had at the start of the month. I was not craving that cake for 3 days afterward. I had it, I enjoyed it, I moved on. The final results after 30 days were measurable and unmistakable. My energy was more consistent throughout the entire day without the spikes and crashes. My skin was clearer. My sleep was deeper and more restorative. My mood was more stable, with noticeably fewer moments of unexplained irritability or anxiety. And my relationship with food had fundamentally shifted from reactive to intentional. I also lost weight, which I want to address carefully because that was not the goal of this experiment, and I do not think the number on the scale tells the most important story here. What changed was body composition. The subtle puffiness and water retention that high sugar intake contributes to was gone. I looked and felt leaner without doing anything differently in terms of exercise. Now here is the part where I give you the honest truth that most 30-day challenge videos skip over. This is not a sustainable zero-tolerance lifestyle for most people, and it does not need to be. The point is not to never eat sugar again. The point is to interrupt the unconscious, habitual, almost invisible sugar consumption that most of us are engaged in daily without even realizing it. Once you interrupt that pattern for long enough to recalibrate your taste buds and your relationship with cravings, you are operating with actual awareness and actual choice. That is what 30 days brought me, not a perfect diet. Awareness. If you want to try this yourself, start with the labels. Spend one grocery trip doing nothing except reading the ingredient lists on the things you regularly buy. I promise you that alone will be one of the most eye-opening experiences you have had in a long time. And if you want a full breakdown of exactly what I ate during these 30 days, including the specific swaps that made the biggest difference, I put together something that covers all of it, and the link is right below this video. The sugar was never actually making life sweeter. It was just making everything else taste worse by comparison.